Oh, yes, it's me. Um, yeah, just uh, Harris Pilton, HP, Dan, Pov's music. I just remembered something. Um, HP, when you said your relatives were £10 Poms, um, my grandfather, Ernest Freeman, came out from Richmond, Surrey, in the early 1900s. Um, they were called New Chums. They had someone, um, vouch for them or some shit like that. And so my father's father was sort of like a £10 pom, but in those days, the early 1900s, it'd be 1 shilling pom. Anyway, I just remembered Adelaide. Yeah, I lived there for a year, almost a year, 59, 1960. My father worked for the government, and there were a lot of atomic bomb tests. The POMs came out here and blew the shit out of the Abbos and the Abbas blew the shit out of the Abbas um, in the desert. Well, they tried to find them, but they always tend to run away. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah, and the Jindavik rocket tests, which was a V2. Australia was gifted a V2 rocket from World War II, the German rocket, and we developed our own rocket systems from that. And so Dad was part of that. He provided the transport, and so we moved down there to Grange in a beach suburb, just I think south of Adelaide, or yeah, very close to Adelaide, the capital. And it was so funny because Adelaide, when I went to the school there, I've said this in previous videos and I'll do it again, I don't care. I got down there and I went to some school nearby, and they thought I was a genius because I knew all the answers to all the questions. I kept saying, I already know these answers. I knew this a year or two ago back in Sydney. And because Adelaide was a free settlement, there were no convict colonies there at all. Um, and there are a lot of POMs there, lots and lots of them. And so many great bands popped up out of South Australia because of the UK contingent. Jim Keys, the Masters Apprentices. There's plenty of them. Jimmy Barnes or Jimmy Swan, his real name, of not Midnight Oil, Cold Chisel. Many, many, many of them. But when you said the £10 POMs, now what am I talking about? Oh, that's right. No One Is Innocent. I love that single. Um, and the B-side's My Way with Sid Vicious. Does a great job too, much better than Frank Sinatra. Um, yeah, No One Is Innocent, Ronnie Biggs. Ronald Biggs, one of the lower echelon of the great train robbers. He actually lived, I found this out years later, of course, but we lived in Grange, which is right on the beach. It's great, but there was no surf. That was the problem. You couldn't have a body surf. It was just flat, and then you'd walk out 200 yards, and then the shark alarm would go. And I was only a little guy, 8, 9 years old or something, and you'd run like hell up to your knees in water or pelvis, and run like hell to get back to. Oh God, it was scary. But yeah, Ronnie Biggs, I found out years later, he lived the next suburb up for a year or so there, in disguise. He'd been to one of them, what do you call them, face surgeon things, and got a facelift. And he was actually living there when I was living there. Pretty cool. I always thought that was really cool. Did I have anything else to say? No, not really.